Okay guys, so today I am working on the memorial garden for my maternal grandfather, whose name is James. My grandfather died in 2006 from mesothelioma. So my grandfather was born December 31st, and so I think I mentioned in the last video that currently the birthstone for that is turquoise, but I decided to use the old school birthstone for December, which was ruby. And so the colors are going to be red, white, and a deep purple. So the flowers that I'm putting in this section of the garden are number one, Tess of the D'Urberville, which is a deep red rose. Deep red in florography stands for morning. And then I'm also putting some zinnias, which stands for I mourn your absence. I did add some poppies. I added some red ones, which were florist pepper box. I wanted to do American Legion because my grandfather served in the Navy, but unfortunately the place where I ordered my seeds from did not get those seeds to me in a timely manner. I used florist pepper box because in terms of look, it looked very similar to American Legion. Next year I will definitely be doing some American Legion poppies. I did a purple one. I think it was Black Swan poppy, but I can't really remember. But poppy stands for consolation, eternal rest, and remembrance. And I mentioned in the last video that, I think internationally, poppies represent those who have died in battle. And so then I'm going to add some chrysanthemum. I did not do it yet because I did not have the right color. I do have the correct color now. I'm going to be adding, I think it's called Cosmo Bordeaux. Chrysanthemum stands for cheerfulness in adversity. And I think this definitely speaks to all of my grandparents, quite frankly. My grandfather grew up in Delco, North Carolina, which is outside of Wilmington. This was, this is North Carolina, so they had to live through the days of Jim Crow and that sort of thing. They were definitely not a wealthy family. They were, by all our standards today, quite poor. They lived in a house, didn't have running water and that sort of thing. And so actually it was a while before my grandfather actually got a house that had, the modern conveniences. And that's the day in which he lived. But, despite that, my grandfather was very cheerful. He was jovial. He had a sense of humor. And, despite the fact that life was tough, he didn't let that make him a bitter person. I'm also adding peonies to the section. I did Henry Baxtos. Peonies stands for many things. It stands for, amongst other things, bravery and masculinity. And so that's why I chose it for all of my grandparents, but it's particularly salient in this particular garden. Let's see, I also put some Shasta daisies, and Shasta daisies stand for gentleness and childlike playfulness. My grandfather was very playful. He was always telling us some crazy story when I was a little girl. Just things you just could not believe that possibly were true. Another thing with my grandfather is that every time we used to go down to visit, he would always make my mom take us out in his truck, because my sister and I loved getting in the back of his pickup truck and just driving down the road like that. And now that I think about it, that was like so dangerous. But, that's all I remember as a child, is that when we go to Pop-Up's house, we could sit in the back of the truck and ride down the road, and it was so much fun. Last but not least, I did add some dahlias. I added Soul Man dahlias. Dahlias stand for dignity, and my grandfather was a very dignified man. He was very funny. He actually didn't drive outside of the state, and so every time I would see my grandfather, it was always because we would drive down to North Carolina to visit him. But I do remember that when I graduated from high school, he actually drove up to New Jersey. And I just remember when he first got here, the first thing he said was like, "Where's the bathroom?" But yeah, it was just such a great experience because, you know, there's so many events in, you know, my life he didn't come to because, you know, he didn't leave the state. But I just remember I was really excited that he actually left North Carolina to come to my high school graduation. So I'm definitely looking for other plants to go in here. I'm probably going to put some abutilon because it stands for enlightenment. One thing about my grandfather and my grandmother is that they made sure that they had 10 children, and, you know, they understood the value of importance of education for African Americans, and so they were very strict with my mom and her siblings, you know, to make sure that they got their education. And my grandfather's famous line was, "Boys and books don't mix," and because it was, you know, as a Black person, especially in the South, you know, it was hard if you did not have an education. It meant a life of poverty. And so he and my grandmother were very committed to making sure the kids got education. And that's not a mentality that a lot of people have. So that's something that was very forward thinking for, you know, the time in which they lived. So anyway, guys, that's this particular memorial garden, and that's a little bit about my grandfather. I hope you guys are enjoying this series, and I hope that this inspires you to do your own garden. So guys, don't forget, the next live call-in show will be July 23rd at 8 p.m. on the Podbean platform. The topic will be, how is your garden going thus far? And so I'm looking forward to hearing from all of you. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.